Hello, YouTube family. Thanks for tuning in to this episode. Please like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and ring the bell for notifications. This is episode, I believe, 22 of my show on YouTube. And just a disclaimer from the get-go. This episode is dealing with religion. I know that's a touchy subject. I know some people get really offended really easily over discussions involving religion. And I've got to admit, as I was putting stuff together for this episode, I had a few bouts of laughter. And, me myself, I come from a religious family. My mother's very religious. Her family's very religious. And I'm not trying to mock anyone's religion. I'm not trying to belittle anyone's religion. And, you believe what you want to believe. It's your perspective. It's up to you what you want to believe. Me, I have difficulty with believing in the talking snakes and the boats filled with every kind of animal in the world by two and things like that, all the mystical, magical stuff. I understand there were people who lived, those people made stories. If you choose to believe those stories as actual reality, so be it. If you choose to believe those stories were inspired by some higher being, so be it. You choose to believe that, that is fine with me. You can believe what you want. And me, I don't have as much belief myself. I don't know that I would say I'm faithless. I'm just not as much of a faithful believer, but this story hits on some of the things I've talked about already, including the cracks that are starting to show through in the Republican Party. You had Donald Trump, who was president. You had certain members of the GOP who aligned themselves very solidly with Trump. You had members of the GOP who allied themselves with Trump for the purpose of trying to get some right-wing legislation passed, where very little right-wing legislation got passed. But I came across this story, and one thing I did not realize is that there are modern-day prophets. From having lived in Utah for a number of years, I understand the Mormon Church president is called the prophet. There is a decent chunk of people in that religion who believe that the Mormon prophet speaks to God. That's their choice to believe. But other than that, I really didn't think there was modern prophets. Apparently there are. And the evangelicals aligned themselves with the right wing a long time ago. They have become more and more aligned with the Republican Party, and so Trump, as a Republican candidate, the evangelical wing of the country, very heavily aligned with him, and you have a great deal of these modern prophets, and apparently they come from the Pentecostal religion, along with, they're also called my notes aren't too good. Charismatics. Pentecostals and Charismatics. So you have Johnny Enlow, who is one of these prominent charismatic prophets. He prophesied that Trump would become president again in 2021. And according to Johnny Enlow, Donald Trump was going to become president this year in 2021, even after he lost the election. Around March, he said Donald Trump would rise to power again. According to Enlow, more than 100 credible Christian prophets also declared Trump would be restored to power. You have Greg Locke, another charismatic prophet from Nashville, Tennessee, said Trump would remain president for another term after he lost the election. He prophesied that Trump would remain in office for another term despite losing the election. And you have Jacksonville, Florida preacher Kat Kerr, who repeatedly said Trump won the 2020 election by a landslide, and that God told her Trump would serve for 8 years, which I guess this is Kat Kerr. Since God told her Trump would serve for 8 years, he's got to serve for 8 years. It's just the way it's got to be. That's the prediction. I guess it's not a prediction, it's a prophecy. Enlow had said that Trump would be back. Not only would Trump be back and serve out a second term starting in 2021, but 2 more Trumps will be in office in some way. Enlow claimed Trump was the primary government leader on planet Earth. I mean, you have these charismatic and Pentecostal prophets that are very, very deep behind Donald Trump. The charismatics and the Pentecostal prophets, they predict the future based on, according to them, dreams, visions, and other supernatural phenomena. Some prophets are church leaders, some operate independently. There is no official requirement for prophet status. Followers, however, expect at least some prophecies to come true. And there was a prophecy in 2015 by a 27-year-old wunderkind named Jeremiah Johnson, that Donald Trump would become president. There were so many of these prophets that predicted Trump would become president. And Jeremiah Johnson predicted Trump was chosen by God to return America to its Christian roots, which the roots of this country actually are secular, more like me. Donald Trump's 2016 victory solidified the belief, and Enlow again claimed that Trump's victory of the 2020 election will be realized in March of 2021. But you have another segment of the Pentecostal and Charismatic prophets that have started moving away from Trump. They all bought into the Trump's going to be elected, he's going to be president, he's going to serve for 2 terms, and they all predicted he would win the 2020 election, and when he didn't, the bulk of the prophets have doubled down, and they're staying with Donald Trump. You have a small group of about 6 or so, it looks like, who have started moving away from Trump. And they're trying to drag the other prophets with them to say, give up the grift. They're not really saying it in those terms because I guess guys whose grift is religion aren't going to call it a grift. They don't. They believe in it, maybe. Trump won around 80% of the evangelical vote. Some estimates are that there are as many as 65 million Americans that may be Pentecostal or charismatic, and they follow these various prophets, self-proclaimed prophets. A study found nearly half of America's white Protestants believe Trump was ordained by God to be president. Nearly half of America's white Protestants believed Donald Trump was ordained by God to be president. And as I said, at least 6 prophets who originally predicted Trump's win have acknowledged they were wrong. One of them is Michael Brown. And Michael Brown is, it looks like, among the leaders of the small group of charismatic prophets. Brown's from North Carolina. He's been calling on his peers to acknowledge the truth. Jeremiah Johnson, the Wunderkind, admitted his prophecy was wrong, but like the GOP, one faction is trying to move on from Trump while the other faction is just doubling down and continuing to prophesy that Trump is going to be here again as the leader of the United States. Michael Brown says that the continued following of Donald Trump has opened the door to outright delusion. I'm sorry. How is this whole thing not a delusion? Oh. Contemporary Christian prophecy was revived in 1901 in Topeka, Kansas, along with spiritual healing and speaking in tongues. Pentecostal, along with mainline Protestants and Catholics, known as charismatics. So in 1901 in Topeka, Kansas is when they started bringing this movement back. It has historical roots going way back you've got all kinds of prophets and prophecies in the Bible and all these ancient stories. In 1901 in Topeka, Kansas is when it started making its mainstream comeback. It is the world's fastest growing form of Christianity. Something else I did not know. Due to out-of-control prophecies, the Apostolic Council of Prophetic Elders was created in 1999. It's 32 people who do quality control for the prophets. In 2011, a retired firefighter turned prophet, Mark Taylor. This is Mark, looking sharp on the 700 Club, predicted Trump would win the 2012 election. This was back when the 2012 election when Barack Obama was running for re-election. Mark Taylor predicted Trump would win the 2012 election. After Trump dropped out, he predicted Romney would win. I guess guess they could just say eventually a Republican's going to win, and eventually he'll be right. Trump will win. That's how he's like, Romney's going to win. And they're like, Obama won re-election. He's like, damn it. Oh my gosh. There is a Charisma magazine dealing with these prophets, modern day prophets. Jesus is right. Jesus! Are you hugging that woman? Oh my gosh. Oh. There were prophets who predicted that Trump was going to be a modern day Cyrus, which is a Persian king who allowed Babylonian Jews to return to their homeland. Kat Kerr, the pink-haired woman from before, led a blessing over Trump's inaugural prayer breakfast. Kerr later prophesied Trump would have 2 consecutive terms, and so would Pence. So you're going to have 16 years of Trump and Pence. Holy crap, what a nightmare that would be. Luckily, her prophecies suck. There was an Australian prophet, Lana Valzer. And this is Lana. It's supernatural. What, the glasses? No, the hair. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. She predicted that Jesus would clothe Trump in a purple robe and a crown. I suppose Jesus was going to show up just to put a purple robe and a crown on Trump because, what, Jesus had nothing better to do? You have Enlow, that was talked about before. Johnny Enlow claimed prophetic significance to the Chiefs defeating the San Francisco 49ers in the 2020 Super Bowl in early 2020. Enlow believes God speaks through sporting events. Or maybe he's just a fan. He's like, what? The 49ers won? No, there's no significance to that. Oh my gosh. A Toronto researcher, James Beverly, found that prophets have a low batting average with their prophecies. Oh, okay. Maybe I shouldn't have done this. You have North Carolina evangelist Charlie Shamp. Oh, he looks the part. Oh, let me prophesy something for you. North Carolina evangelist Charlie Shamp shot a video of himself at the Capitol steps as rioters assaulted the Capitol building. There were a lot of these charismatic prophets that were at the Capitol. And at the Trump rally. They went to the Trump rally. I guess they might say, well, we weren't there to assault. We were just there to hear God speak. I mean, Trump speak. Charlie Shamp is a champ. Oh, this is a crazy episode. I'm sorry for laughing so much. And if you believe in prophets, good for you. Good for you. Ugh. After Trump's loss and the January 6th riots, Jeremiah Johnson the wunderkind name that was shown earlier, claimed to have misinterpreted dreams and asked his followers for forgiveness. Brown, the guy I talked about earlier, Michael Brown, he's one of the ones leading the group of 6 to try and sway the larger group away from Trump. He's trying to create a new quality assurance group to set new standards for prophets. You have a quote also from Politico talk show host Sid Roth, as well as Jennifer LeClaire, the former editor of Charisma magazine, whose publisher, Stephen Strang, predicted Trump would top 400 electors, also apologized, with LeClaire writing, "I believe some prophets who prophesied a Trump win never heard God at all. They merely tapped into the popular prophetic opinion because it was what so many in the church wanted to hear." No kidding. I don't think they heard God at all. They're just making crap up. A statement from Michael Brown is, "There is no reality in which Trump actually did win, but in fact didn't win. There is no reality in which Trump actually did win, but in fact didn't win. To entertain possibilities like this is to mock the integrity of prophecy and to make us charismatics look like total fools." Watch it, chimp. You're going to make us look like fools. Stop talking about Trump. Oh, my gosh. Oh. I read this piece about these prophets fighting over Trump, and I felt like I needed to do an episode on it. I'm sorry for the laughter. I'm sorry if it hurts your feelings. I'm not here trying to hurt your feelings. I'm just doing the story, and for me, it seems so funny, for one prophet to look at other prophets and say, "Hey, you make us look like total fools." Just misinterpret some more dreams, man. Oh. But the reality is, prophecies, to some degree, it's targeted guessing. For someone to say back in the early 2000s, Trump will be president one day. Trump had been talking for years before that about running for president. He talked about if he did run for president, he would run on the Republican ticket. And so you're, as a prophet, thinking, I got a 50-50 shot. If he runs for president, it's going to be on one of the two main party tickets. So 50-50 shot of being right. And the other thing is, prophecy counts on vagueness. There was the prophecy that there would be 2 other Trumps that would hold some sort of office. Well, it's entirely possible. Now the Trump family's got into politics. It's possible 2 other Trumps will hold office in some way at some point in time in the future. I mean that's the key, is these guys and girls are trying to make vague statements that some future event may look like, and they say, "Aha, picked it. I prophesied that. God talked to me that time." The guy that I'm assuming it's just a big sports fan and claims sporting events have prophetic ramifications. But along with the GOP splintering over Trump, you've got these evangelical prophets who are now splintering over Trump. You have the ones trying to get away from Trump and move on with other prophecies. And you have the ones who are diehard, doubling down and staying with their man, Trump. And the religious right has been, as I said, aligned with the Republican Party for a lot of years. A lot of years. They're very steadfast Republican. And now you have these prophets that are fighting over Trump or no Trump. You have a lot of fans, of supporters of these prophets, mad at the prophets, wanting them to sort things out and tell them if Trump's going to be president again or not. And it's crazy to me. To me, that's crazy. And the charismatics don't have to worry about people making them look like total fools. They're doing it for themselves. I mean, they're claiming to prophesy things in modern times. And as the researcher said, they've got a very low batting average of being right. There's a comedian, George Carlin. He had a bit where he talked about he started praying to Joe Pesci. One of the punchlines was, you'd be surprised what a pissed off Italian guy with a baseball bat can accomplish for you. And the other punchline was, as he put it, praying to Joe Pesci was about the same as praying to God, praying to Jesus. His prayers were answered at about a 50-50 rate. I mean, you've got these people doing these prophecies, and I doubt they're batting 500. But they're trying to make vague predictions so that future events can look like those predictions. Some of them apparently make very huge calculated risks and mistakes and end up predicting something that just isn't going to happen. That just isn't going to happen in the future. You have this massive bulk of the modern day Pentecostal and Charismatic prophets that had predicted Trump would win a second term in office. And a great deal of them are sticking with that, saying somehow, some way, he's going to get back into office before 2024. And it's not going to happen. He lost. Biden's president. We're stuck with him now. I mean, I would agree he's better than Trump. Certainly not my first pick, though. And the story was a hoot. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.